Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So how are you all, devotees?
Great.
Are you okay? Are you still alive? I hope so. Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be here with you all, nice devotees. I joined in London on January the 7th, 1973, in the very place, and we came here 1973, 1974, a couple of times, distributing books 40 years ago. So maybe at that time some seeds were planted in one way, in whatever ways. And now they're beginning to fructify in the form of this beautiful temple and nice yatra of sincere and dedicated devotees. Now, our Sri Temple President Ji has ordered me to speak on a particular verse. So we will do that. We will speak on Bhagavad Gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. Text 34. How many of you know that verse? 434. Oh, we have one who knows it. Anybody else knows it? We have 2. We have 3. We have 4. Okay. Work on it, devotees. Try to learn it. It's a good one. Okay, seeing you've got some books there, let us do it responsibly. Tadvidi pranipatena. Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshyanti te jnanam. Jnaninas tattva darshina. Tadvidi pranipatena. Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshyanti te jnanam. Jnaninas tattva darshina. Tadvidi pranipatena. Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshyanti te jnanam. Jnaninas tattva darshina. Go ahead, someone.
Tadvidi pranipatena. Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshyanti te jnanam. Jnaninas tattva darshina. Tadvidi pranipatena. Pariprashnena sevaya.
Bhakti Pranipatena Pariprasnena Sevaya Upadeshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshinaha Bhakti Pranipatena Pariprasnena Sevaya Upadeshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshinaha Bhakti Pranipatena Pariprasnena Sevaya Upadeshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshinaha
Tat. That knowledge of different sacrifices. Vidhi. Try to understand. Pranipatena. By approaching a spiritual master. Pariprasnena. By submissive inquiries. Sevaya. By the rendering of service. Upadeshyanti. They will initiate. Te. You. Jnana. Into knowledge. Jnanina. The self-realized. Tattva. Of the truth. Darshinaha. Seers. Translation. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Let us repeat this responsively, devotees. You can repeat after me. Just try to learn the truth. By approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively. And render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. The Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharanam tu sakshad bhagavat pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path. Nor by independent study of books of knowledge can one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized spiritual master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master. And when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, both blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind towards the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. Let me read the verse again. Tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitiyane Shatane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha Paritanam papanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yes, so Prabhu asked me to read this verse. So here we are. And it's a very important verse. And it's a verse which I think many of you are fairly familiar with. And if not, and if you'd like to progress in Krishna consciousness really, then familiarize yourself. Learn the verse and see how Srila Prabhupada presents the purport. It's the verse is wonderful, and Srila Prabhupada's purport is really very wonderful. So, spiritual master, guru, is, in one sense, of course, a teacher. But not exactly just like in the regular sense in this material world, teacher. We've all been to school and we've all been taught so many things over so many years. and so much information we received, and some of it we were able to take in, and this way become a little qualified in whatever field it may be, some general field or some specialized field perhaps. So this is material education, and it's a very simple idea that you just go to someone who is an authority or a bit of an authority in the field, and they give you whatever knowledge they have and explain things like this, and in that way you can progress in the subject. So in Krishna consciousness, in spiritual life, there are certainly elements of that. But as we read here, that is not just the full picture. What is the spiritual master? What does it mean? What does it involve to have a relationship with the spiritual master? It's not simply, it is not only that idea. Okay. It is not simply that idea of imparting information in that sense, like A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. In that sense, there is a deeper aspect to it, a much deeper aspect. And actually there are much deeper aspects, plural, than simply being taught some information which you should learn and take in. Although, of course, there is information which you should take in and learn also. So, here, Lord Krishna is talking about it, and Srila Prabhupada is explaining very nicely that one has to hear, one has to hear, one has to inquire, but one has to render service submissively and please the Guru by one's service. This aspect is not there in university or at school. It just isn't there. It is simply a matter of receiving knowledge and trying to get that knowledge into your head, and then in the exams you present your understandings. That's the material process. But in material education, there is not this particular aspect that you must serve submissively, inquire, not just inquire, but render service and please the teacher. Is it? Not really. I don't think it is. It's really just information exchange, that's all. And then representing the information later on to show that you got it. So this then, it's a very important factor. With material teachers, generally, the relationship does not go very deep in personal terms of personal interaction, particularly at school, also in university. In many cases, you have a teacher who teaches you for 1 year, perhaps, a particular subject, and the next year you move on to the next level, and now you've got different teachers. So there's no real sense of long-term relationship and developing that relationship and the mood of humility, submission, and service. It's not really there. Well, maybe to some degree, if you get into postgraduate, if you get into PhD level, then you get a mentor and they help you over a period of maybe 2 or 3 years of working with you in somewhat more personal terms. But still it's not the same. Because here, although it's not actually specifically mentioned in this verse and purport as such, but in many places we'll see Prabhupada discusses and Shastra, scripture discusses that the relationship with the spiritual master is not just for 1 year and then you go on to another spiritual master, and it is not just for a few years. It is not even just for 1 lifetime. As Narottam Das Thakur sings in this regard, in Guru Vandana, Sri Guru Charana Padma, in this regard, what does Narottam Das Thakur sing? In this regard, how it's a long-term relationship. I think someone got it. Yeah, okay. Chakudan Diraje Janme Prabhu se. Chakudan. Literally, Chakudan means the gift of eyes or vision. That's actually what it means. Dan. Dan means donation. Giving a gift like that. So, Chakudan. That person who gave me the eyes to see, who gave me the vision to see, Janme, birth after birth, Prabhu say, is my master. And even there are a couple of places or discussions in which Srila Prabhupada is discussing this particular point and quoting that particular verse of that particular song. And Prabhupada expresses it a little differently and in a way which really implies greater depth in the relationship. Prabhupada says, Chakudan Dila Jay, Janme Pita say. There are a number of places you can look up on your computer. If you've got Prabhupada's books, you'll find Prabhupada says in a few places this. Janme Pita say. Pita means father. So it's not just, master is also, that's important. That's deep. But a relationship where someone is your father, Janme, birth after birth, just on an ongoing basis. And actually, ultimately, the idea is eternally. Well, that's a deeper relationship, isn't it? It's a closer relationship on the level of the heart. And not just a matter of just the master, the boss, the one who's in charge of you. But it's a deep, close, intimate, very personal relationship. So this aspect is a very, very important aspect of the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, which distinguishes it from any type of teacher-student relationship that we may be familiar with or experience in regular life, day-to-day life. Yes, so it's a very important thing. It's a very wonderful thing. It's a very wonderful thing. In fact, it's amazing, actually. It's really amazing. And therefore, Narottam Das Thakur, again, in that same song, he begins, Sri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati Sadma, Bando Mui Savatan Mate. So he's saying, lotus feet of the spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet. At least the translation is with great awe and reverence. Other translations I've seen say with great care and attention. Interesting, the word sabadhan, which is the particular word in regard to like awe and reverence, care and attention. The word sabadhan, it has its roots in Sanskrit, although it's also a word today in Hindi language at least, common Hindi and common Bengali. Savadhan. If you can read Hindi, Sanskrit, when you're driving in India, when you come to some roadworks, they're trying to fix the road. In India, it's a challenge. Anyway, that's another subject. But they're trying to fix the road. And you'll see the sign. And it says, Savadhan. That's what it says. Yeah. As we, here in England, we have roadworks also, and it says, beware. Beware. Roadworks. Watch out. So that word Savadhan, really, it's a word of caution. It's not just a word of, be attentive and be careful. It's a word of warning. Look out, watch out, watch out. Don't think that there's any other way of achieving perfection other than the lotus feet of the spiritual master. At least as a very integral and very essential part of the overall picture of becoming Krishna conscious. So we find that it's emphasized, it's stressed. And the idea is, even in regard to the idea of just getting knowledge and just understanding different things about what is what in spiritual life, even in that regard, just the point of information, gathering, developing understanding, there are other elements also just in that regard, in terms of the relationship between spiritual master and disciple, which distinguishes it from the normal teacher-student type relationship. For example, there's a very interesting discussion between Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada's guru, and an American professor who came to India and somehow met with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So they were discussing some things, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who, his mind, his consciousness, his intelligence was something like, you could only really say, encyclopedic. He was just extra-dimensional, pretty much, in terms of understanding. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, at some point in this discussion, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave a very sophisticated and complex explanation of the Das avatars, the famous Das avatars. Every good Hindu has heard of the Das avatars. So he gave a really quite an astonishing explanation of them one by one in the context of pointing out how each one after the other is displaying, you could say, he uses the term, a more evolved type of consciousness. Hare Krishna. If we lost you on that one, don't worry, you're in good company. Many people can't quite get that idea. But how each of the avatars, one after the other, is, not necessarily possessing, but at least displaying more developed forms, states of consciousness. You understand? Namaste. Okay. Anyway, this is the idea. And, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he was, like we said, encyclopedic in knowledge. He was also highly literate in English. And even for us native English speakers, when I first read his Brahma Samhita, I had to keep the dictionary on hand. Yeah, really. Certain words were there. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave this explanation, and it was really, wow. Not easy to follow, even for someone who's quite accustomed to these things. And what to speak of some American professor who was not a devotee, and who knows what he was really doing there actually. So in the end, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta asks him, sort of to the effect, so, what do you think now? How do you like my explanation? And this man, you can just picture the man, he's sort of like this. It's gone way over his head, and his head is sort of spinning. So, but he doesn't want to say, gosh, I really couldn't follow it. What he says is, I'll have to think about it. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gives a very interesting response. He says, no, don't think about it too much with your material consciousness. If you try to think about it and figure it out with your intelligence, your material intelligence, and so many misconceptions, etc., if you try and figure it out, you will not understand. You'll come out with some warped misunderstanding. Anyway, he doesn't say that in as many words, but he just tells him, no, don't think about it. He says, no, don't think about it, hear about it. Hear about it from devotees. Because, point one, if you hear about it from devotees, first thing, you'll get the right information. If you think about it, You know, if you think about it, the Christians, they have this idea, God's the original person, so what does that mean, original person? Original, oh, he must be very old. He must be very old. In fact, he must really be very, 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 extremely very old. So they sometimes depict him sitting on a cloud with a harp, and he looks like he escaped from the hospice or something like that, you know. He looks just like he is finished with old age. Oh, yeah. You know, when you go to a place like a hospice or some of the old people's homes, there are people there who they don't let out, they can't, and you don't see generally. But when you see them, wow, it can be quite shocking. Somehow they're still alive, although the body looks like it shouldn't be alive. It has gone past the expiry date. So anyway, yeah, so Bhaktisiddhanta makes this point. Don't think about it, hear about it. Because, first of all, you get the right information, and of course that's vital. If you get the wrong information, well, your whole effort is just a waste of time from that point on, pretty much. But second point is that there is a certain quality to that sound vibration spoken by such advanced devotees. There's a certain quality to the sound vibration, and that pure sound vibration will help cleanse your consciousness in terms of the quality of your consciousness, like clean it out of all, various sort of psychological muck, contaminated concepts, thinking processes, tendencies, psychological tendencies, attitudes, and all that. The quality of the sound vibration being completely spiritual and totally pure. Shabda Brahma. Spirit in sound vibration, in the form of sound vibration. It will cleanse your consciousness, and then you will get the capacity, or at least it will help you to get the capacity to understand, actually. Because it's not just an intellectual function. How good you are at 1 + 1 = 2 and, just absorbing facts and figures and things like that. So you see, this is very important. This is really essential. Otherwise, you end up with a distorted idea or a whole lot of distorted ideas. And then, well, then you missed the point, you lost it. Sorry. Better luck sometime in the future. There's another little story of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Maybe you're familiar with this, I don't know, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta once, he was in Mayapur, and a big professor, a big Hindu professor from the Benares Hindu University, came to see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta with some big questions, and means like real philosophical questions. So he arrived there and was brought to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and said, yes, here I am, Professor such and such. I've got some questions. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, just wait a minute. I'm busy. I'll be with you shortly, in a little while. However, in the meantime, why don't you go ask those boys over there? There was a small group of young brahmacharis, like 20 to 25 years old, perhaps something like that, just very, very young men, and they're students in spiritual life. And this man, he's a big professor from the Banaras Hindu University, he's probably 50 years old or something like that, a big, big scholar. And now here he is being told, go and ask these young boys who are 20 years old. And he thought, wow, what is this? But he was sort of, a pleasant Hindu gentleman. So he thought, okay, I'll go and ask them. So he did. He went and asked them, I've got these questions and your guru's busy. He said, I should ask you. So can I ask you? And they said, well, we're busy too. We are cleaning the arati paraphernalia. All the ghee lamps and the conch shells and whatnot. All the things that are used for offering the arati on the altar. So we are busy, we are cleaning the arati paraphernalia. But if you sit down and help us, we will finish quicker and then we can answer your questions quicker. So this big scholar, PhD professor, he thought, what now? Now they're getting me to do some menial work. But he was a pleasant Hindu gentleman. And he thought, oh, okay. So he started helping clean the arati paraphernalia. So there is cleaning, helping. And suddenly, amazing thing happened. Answers to his questions started just appearing in his head. Out of nowhere, apparently. They just started manifesting. And he carried on cleaning, helping, and more answers came. And then they finished. And the young boy said, okay, we're ready now. What are your questions? And he said, actually, it's okay. I don't have any questions any longer. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta came and said, okay, I'm free now. So come and we can discuss. Tell me what your questions are. And that professor told him that actually it's really amazing. I had all these questions and I just really couldn't understand. But there I was, cleaning the arati paraphernalia, and the answers just came out of apparently nowhere. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta then quoted a Bhagavatam verse, first canto, chapter 2, verse something, maybe 18. Anyway, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janiyat Yasu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahaitukam, which means Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. If you serve Vasudeva, Krishna, if you serve Krishna in bhakti with devotion, then Janiyat Yashu, Jana is born. Janiyat Yashu, Vairagya, detachment, Jnanam Cha, and knowledge, Ahaitukam, causelessly. Causelessly means no material cause. No material cause. Not just absolutely causelessly, just literally out of the blue, it just popped out of nowhere. No, it's coming from somewhere. But it's not coming from somewhere part of this material world of cause and effect and all the processes of cause and effect. It's coming by the mercy of Krishna. Janayat yashu vairagyam jnanam cha yad ahaitukam. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta quoted this verse, that because you've rendered service to Krishna, Krishna within your heart gave you some knowledge. He gave you some revelation internally, some realization. So you see, this is all part of it. This is all part of this picture that we're talking about here. Relationship between spiritual master and disciple. And that it's not just an academic relationship. It's much deeper than that. And it's much more multifaceted than that. So this is something that we should really think about carefully. And this is something which Krishna's talking about here. And it is really a foundational part of the whole process of Krishna consciousness. It is just foundational. Yeah. In other words, if we, like here, Krishna says, Tatpadi pranipatena, pari prashnena. Prashna. What's prashna? Question. Prashnena. Prashnena means by questions. Sevaya, and by service. So if we serve the devotees, but particularly in this context, if we serve the spiritual master who is really taking the lead in helping us move forward, at least that's how it's meant to be, giving the guidance, giving the input, taking the questions, giving the guidance, and like that, and with whom there is a relationship in which the disciple feels, I am rendering service to the Lord and offering that to the Lord via the spiritual master. So, if that mood is there, then Krishna likes it. Krishna likes it. Krishna's a person. Krishna likes things, and he doesn't like some things too. And some things he really doesn't like. But some things he really likes. And when he really likes some things, if you do them, he expresses himself. He reciprocates. So the devotees, all the devotees actually, all the devotees, even the new devotee who just started, is trying to start, all the devotees are dear to the Lord. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya makes the point in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The inhabitants of, where is it? Kulina, is it? Kulina, I forget. This group of devotees approached Lord Chaitanya, and they asked Lord Chaitanya, well, they actually asked the same question each year for 3 years. They came and met him for 3 years, and each time they asked him exactly the same question. And the first time, Lord Chaitanya, the question was that, how do you recognize a devotee? How can you tell? How can you tell who's a devotee? Distinguish. This is a devotee, that isn't. So first time, Lord Chaitanya answered, anyone who chants Hare Krishna one time in their life is the best of the common people. Now, seriously, one time in your life. We had people down there in the streets today, who didn't have the foggiest idea what was going on. And, some thought it was just a bit of a joke, and others just didn't know. They thought maybe it's something from outer space, which Goloka Vrindavan is definitely out of the space. But so many of them chanted. Even that funny girl, the heavily built girl, in her sort of zany way. So it's important. It's really important. Anyone, this is Lord Chaitanya, anyone who chants the name of Krishna one time in their life is the best of the common people. Essentially means they are recognized by Krishna. Now you might say, well, Krishna recognizes everybody. But in this sense, Krishna definitely does not recognize everybody. Krishna recognizes his devotees. That's who he really recognizes. Everybody else, okay, he knows who they are, where they are. But they're just, they're really relegated to a completely different category. But the devotees, Krishna accepts. So if you chant, the basic idea is, if you chant Hare Krishna one time in your life, Krishna puts your name down on his list. Yes, on the list, going back to Godhead list. So let us take the opportunity and just say, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well done. You're on Krishna's list. Well, you're all already on Krishna's list. That's okay. But now we just made sure. So, yeah. Jiva Goswami says in his Sankalpa Kalpadruna, Jiva Goswami makes the point that even though Krishna is so vast, unlimitedly vast, even though Krishna is so vast, he says, like an unlimited ocean. But Jiva Goswami says, still, even though Krishna is so vast, like an unlimited ocean, he never forgets even the smallest drop of service. He never forgets. Never forgets. Even the smallest drop of service. Yeah. So, we were saying, the devotees are very dear to Krishna. And actually all the devotees, and even the most beginning devotee, and what to speak of those who are really seriously trying to focus their lives in Krishna consciousness and really progress and really to please. Oh, of course. It's interesting, Shukadev Goswami says in the 6th canto, right at the end of the story of Ajamil, well, right at the end of the 2nd chapter, before the discussion between the Yamadutas and Yamaraj. Shukadev Goswami makes the point that Ajamil, well, for those of you who may not be aware, Ajamil was a very, very degraded, debauchee, just rotten person. Rotten person. Just heavily materialistic. So, but he and his wife, in their old age, they had a child, a son, and they named him Narayan, which of course is a name of God. And why did they call him Narayan? Were they thinking, we must give him a good name of God to help him and help us? No. It was just a popular name. It was just, it was one of the names, one of the general listed names that was used because that was the culture. So it wasn't a specific decision. We will name him Narayan for spiritual reasons at all. So, but anyway, as a doting parent, he would call out, Narayan, where are you? Narayan, come here. Narayan, stop that, and etc., etc. It was just like his meditation. Although he was just calling his son. And he was not thinking that this is the name of God. He was just calling his son. As far as he was concerned, he might as well just have called him Fred. Hey, Fred, come here. Yeah, it was just a name. He could have just called him XYZ. XYZ, come here. Really. So, but anyway, it was a name of the Lord. And even though he was chanting it without any awareness or desire for anything spiritual or God conscious at all, but still he was getting benefit. And then finally he died. And as he was dying, he saw the Yamadutas. The Yamadutas. Watch out for the Yamadutas. They're the messengers of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death. They come and take the sinful people, the soul and the subtle body, at the time of death of the physical gross body. The Yamadutas take the soul and subtle body of the sinful people to Yamaraj to be judged. So, and those Yamadutas, they look, I sometimes jokingly say, they look like heavy metal people, but multiplied by about 100. In other words, they're like ghouls, hobgoblins, and just hellish beings, shocking, ghastly, and very aggressive and vicious looking beings. I'm sure some of these heavy metal people, some will end up as Yamadutas, or they'll at least end up in the hands of the Yamadutas. So anyway, the Yamadutas came. Let me just tell you a little story. I'm based in South Africa, and some years ago, actually several years ago now, during the Christmas marathon, devotees were out distributing books, lots and lots of books, and particularly in Cape Town. It's the second city of South Africa. So this one lady devotee was in a shopping mall distributing books, Prabhupada's books. And she stopped a heavy metal boy. He was dressed completely in black and long hair, just really long. And he just looked sort of mean and unclean and unhappy. And he had, around his neck, he had a little thing, sort of little chain, with a cross on it. But the cross was turned upside down, if you know what that means. So, in other words, he's making a statement, I'm a Satanist. So, and he had some t-shirt on with some horrible picture and some little slogan like, I love Satan. And our devotee stopped him. Take a book. There he is. Oh, book. Okay. So now he's looking at the book. And he said, yeah. Okay, all right. I see. Yeah. He said, look, it's okay. But haven't you got something heavier? And then she remembered. She had in her bag a copy of the book. It's called A Second Chance. Dharma. I think it was Dharma. And in the center, you open the book, there is a double-page spread of a man dying, and the Yamadutas are dragging him out of his body. It's kind of, it's like that's pretty dramatic. So this girl just whipped out the book, opened it up, and the boy looked at it and he said, that's cool. And he took the book. So you see, if presented suitably, Krishna consciousness can be accepted by anyone. Really. So anyway, we were there with Ajamil. And so he was dying, and he saw the Yamadutas, and they looked so shocking and disturbing. He just panicked what to do, but he was dying. There wasn't anything he could do. So he just started screaming. And then he called for his little boy, Narayan, who was 5 years old. Now, what little 5-year-old Narayan could have done, against a big gang of Yamadutas, I don't know. But this was all he could think of. He just spontaneously, Narayan, calling his son. And then the Vishnu Dutas came, because Narayan is the name of the Lord. Whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, it just is. And so the Vishnu Dutas came, and there's a whole discussion, argument, debate between them and the Yamadutas, and they defeated the Yamadutas. That because he chanted the name of the Lord as he was dying, he's liberated. We are taking him, not you. Yeah. So, Shukadeva Goswami then, at the end of the second chapter there, he makes a very strong statement, and it's a very wonderful statement. He says that Ajamil was so sinful and terrible that somehow he chanted the name of the Lord at the time of death, and he was delivered. And then Shukadeva Goswami says, so, how can there be any doubt that a person who sincerely chants the holy names of the Lord, how can there be any doubt that they'll be delivered? How can there be any doubt? There can't be any doubt. Of course, they must. And the proof is Ajamil. So anyway, we were saying the devotees are very dear to the Lord. So if we please the devotees, the Lord will be pleased. And he will express his being pleased by, not as some people sort of wishful thinkers think. No, Krishna says, Tesham Sadhata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvikam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Rupayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So this idea, like we were mentioning with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, that this professor, he just suddenly, he's doing some service, he doesn't see it as devotional service, he thinks he's just helping out a bit. But it actually is devotional service. And then suddenly, the understanding comes. Oh, I didn't think of that. And all his questions were answered. So, in terms of the part of this, the guru-disciple relationship, that part to do with just knowledge anyway, just the knowledge part, just the understanding part. If sevaya, if the disciple serves the devotees, but amongst the devotees, the spiritual master is the most prominent, or should be, in the life of the disciple. So if the disciple pleases the devotees, and particularly the guru, Krishna will be pleased, and he will express it by giving understanding, giving knowledge. So you see, it's a big subject. It's not a small subject, and there are many aspects. You could do a whole seminar for weeks on it, actually. And it's so important that we see that even, for example, when Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago, when Lord Chaitanya came, he is Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. Lord Krishna Chaitanya is none other than Radha and Krishna. So when Lord Chaitanya came, he accepted a guru. He accepted a guru, Ishvara Puri. And Lord Chaitanya did not say that, listen, I don't need a guru, I'm God. This man's a guru, you want me to accept him as my guru? He should accept me as his guru, because I'm God. Lord Chaitanya didn't think like that or do like that at all. Lord Chaitanya accepted Ishvara Puri as his guru, wholeheartedly. There's a very nice description there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, how the Lord Chaitanya approaches Ishvara Puri, and Ishvara Puri actually knows that Lord Chaitanya is God. And Lord Chaitanya asks him, please accept me as your disciple. And Ishvara Puri sort of laughs. How can I accept you as my disciple? You must accept me. But Lord Chaitanya insisted, no, please. And so, understanding it was the will of the Lord, Ishvara Puri said, okay, all right, if that's what you want. And he initiated him. And after Ishvara Puri initiated him, Lord Chaitanya asked him, okay, now I'm initiated, what should I do? What's my duty? And Lord Chaitanya suggested, should I speculate on dry, impersonal philosophy, sort of Vedanta philosophy, and get into big discussions, complex, mind-bending discussions on these things? Should I do that? Now I'm a disciple. I'm a disciple now. What should I do? So Ishvara Puri said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. What you should do is, and then he spoke, famous verse, Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasyeva Nasyeva Nasyeva, Gatir Anyata. What you should do is you just chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names of Hari, Krishna. There is no other way, no other way, no other way, Gatir Anyata, to achieve the goal of life in this Kali Yuga. So Lord Chaitanya, he was instructed like that, and Lord Chaitanya said, right. And he started doing it. He didn't say, look, okay, I accepted you as guru. All right. But, don't tell me what to do because I'm God. No, he accepted that instruction. And Lord Chaitanya started chanting and chanting and chanting, like 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. He just got into it, as they say in South Africa, one way, just full steam ahead. And of course, Lord Chaitanya, his chanting, it was not like our chanting, or some of us at least, that, we chant, and sometimes we think of something else, and what's happening today, and what's going on over there, and we chant, and we get distracted, and sometimes we may actually commit the 10 offenses. Lord Chaitanya chanted perfectly, purely, and as a result, he started immediately. He became overwhelmed with all the ecstatic symptoms completely at the same time. And Lord Chaitanya became so overwhelmed that he couldn't chant. He would start chanting and his voice would choke up. He would faint. His body would shake uncontrollably, like this. So, acting as the disciple, or presenting himself as a disciple, Lord Chaitanya went back to Ishvara Puri and said, I have a problem. Please help me. I'm doing something wrong. I'm trying to chant, but when I chant, these things happen. And Ishvara Puri, who knew already the situation, he just laughed. And he said, congratulations, my dear child. You have perfected your life. But really, Lord Chaitanya accepted Ishvara Puri as his guru. He accepted him. It was not putting on a show, just so people like a bit of an example. He accepted. And you see, when Lord Chaitanya met Prakashananda Saraswati, it is the 7th chapter of the Adi Leela. Prakashananda Saraswati was a big mental speculator, Mayavadi, Vedantist, and he had thousands of disciples who were just following in the same path. So, there's some initial exchange between Lord Chaitanya and Prakashananda, and Prakashananda asked him, why don't you come and associate with us, sannyasis, because Lord Chaitanya was a sannyasi at that point. Why don't you associate with us and discuss Vedanta? Why do you just sort of avoid us? And Lord Chaitanya responded, the first thing he said was, Guru Mora Murkadeki Karila Shasan. My Guru told me, Murk, you're a fool. And Karila Shasan, and he chastised me and told me, don't do this. Just chant. That's the only way I do. That's what I do. So Lord Chaitanya, he's a sannyasi, he's got some prominence. In order to avoid embarrassing himself, because he embarrassed himself, my Guru told me I'm a fool. So he could have sort of talked his way around it in some creative way. Why I'm not discussing things with you to save face. But he didn't. He just said, Guru Mora Murkadeki. My Guru told me, you're a fool. So Lord Chaitanya, he accepted a Guru. Then Krishna, same thing. Krishna accepted Sandipani Muni. And he really accepted him. And there's that story in the 10th canto. Krishna and Sudama were sent out to gather firewood. And Krishna could have said, listen, you want someone to get firewood? Look, come on, I'm God. Don't ask me to go out and get firewood. Get someone else. Krishna could have said that, and he would have been quite within his rights. But he didn't. He just accepted that order from his Guru. And he and Sudama went out and they gathered lots of firewood. Then they got stuck in a storm overnight. But they didn't panic or run for it. They kept all the firewood dry and they just tolerated the storm for the whole night. And the next day, Sandipani Muni came out and found them. So Krishna also, he accepted a Guru. Not just as a show, but he actually accepted in his heart and surrendered to his Guru and served him very humbly. So, and Lord Ram did the same thing. Lord Ram did the same thing. So we can learn from these examples. We need to learn from these examples. Very, very important that it is a foundational part of the process of Krishna consciousness to accept a spiritual master. And when you do, you should inquire and you should render service. And you should understand, he's not just a teacher. Next term, next semester, I'll have another one. This is a long-term relationship, janme janme, birth after birth, even eternally. Prabhupada said, we will have another ISKCON in Goloka Vrindavan. We will all be together there. Yeah. One fine morning, you're all going to wake up and you'll be in Goloka Vrindavan. Yeah. So the relationships, for that matter, all of our relationships between sincere and serious devotees, they're all eternal. They're actually all eternal. So we should accept a spiritual master in that way and really try to fulfill our part of the relationship. Take responsibility for it and wholeheartedly give ourselves. And then Krishna will be pleased. Krishna will be happy. Krishna will give us great mercy. He'll give us understanding. And He'll help us in so many ways in our lives. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions? Yes. Yes, sir.
Maharaj, could I be curious about the questions, the Prashna Pariprashna of the Hindu professor who came to ask
I see. What they were?
Yeah, what they were and what answers he got.
Well, frankly, it's not stated in the account. It doesn't actually say what the questions were. But coming from a Hindu professor who was certainly not a devotee, he was a Hindu, sort of mixed position. They may not have been such wonderful questions. I mean, from the devotee point of view.
My curiosity was, now that he rendered some service and he seems to have got the answers, just trying to see the mechanism. If I know the question, probably we can at least work it out or guess. But obviously it's not.
Well, the mechanism
is not given.
Yeah, we don't know. In the account I saw, the questions are not given. But everything else I mentioned is given there. And the basic idea is that because he rendered some service, Krishna gave him understanding. And I also don't know what happened to him after that, if his life changed in some way. That's also not described there.
Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Maybe if Dr. Sarvatam does some menial service, those questions will.
Yes. Yes.
Maharaj, you quoted Janne Janne Pita Se
Yeah.
from Srila Prabhupada, and you said that that relationship of father is very intimate.
Yes.
So following the analogy, it occurred to me that the relationship with the father is founded on a lot of contact. We grow up with our father and we spend a lot of time and he nurtures us and so on and so forth.
Right.
So there's two forms of the spiritual master we hear, the Vapu form and the Vani form. And I wonder if you could say something about the importance of both of those forms, because often in a relationship with the spiritual master it seems that Vapu isn't always available. So how does the intimacy develop and what's the significance of the two forms?
Well, that's a very good question. Yes, certainly. In a normal family relationship, the father is there every day, for years. So therefore, the relationship is a very close and very personal relationship. So Vapu and Vani were mentioned. That Vapu means the physical form, and Vani means the form, the person's form in the form of their instructions. So in other words, Bhagavad Gita, it's the instructions of Krishna. Obviously, we all know that. So in this context, Bhagavad Gita is a form of Krishna. And if or when we develop more transcendental vision, then we will actually see Krishna. Not just see, some words printed on paper, even though they're nice words and helpful words, but we'll actually see, oh, there's Krishna. There's a purport of Prabhupada's. It's in either third or fourth canto, I forget. Some description in which Narada Muni is involved. And Prabhupada, so Narada Muni's instructing somebody. And Prabhupada says in one of the purports, we would like to thank Narada Muni for appearing in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And you might think, someone might think it's sort of, poetic, colourful expression. But actually, Prabhupada means it. He's actually thanking Narada Muni for actually being present, because he is interacting with Narada Muni, because he, Prabhupada's on a very, very high level of Krishna consciousness. So Bhagavad Gita is actually a form of Krishna. And there's one family, disciples of Prabhupada. They were, during Prabhupada's time, they were traveling in India together, husband and wife, and they were distributing Prabhupada's books. And they asked Prabhupada that, we're traveling and we have to stay out. We don't stay in one of our temples where there are deities and nice atmosphere. We just stay wherever we stay. So we would like to help us in our Krishna consciousness as we're traveling. We would like to get some Gauratai deities. Some deities, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, to worship, to help us, because we don't visit the temples very often. Prabhupada wrote back and said, no. What you do is, you take the books and you worship them. You can offer food to them. You offer arati to the books, because they're actually a form of the Lord. So Bhagavad Gita is the Vani of Krishna, his form, in the form of his words. And the instructions of the spiritual master are his Vani, whereas Vapu means the actual physical, the body. So Prabhupada discusses the subject in general, and Prabhupada makes the point that when the spiritual master is physically present and available, then the disciple should render service to the Vapu. And not just think, spiritual master's here, and okay, well, Vapu, Vani, it's the same. So I won't serve the Vapu. I will just serve the instructions, even though he's physically present, like here. But Prabhupada makes the point that when the spiritual master is personally present, one should serve him personally in the Vapu sense. But otherwise, one should serve the Vani, the form of the instructions. And if one does that nicely, then gradually one will realize more and more the fact that the spiritual master is actually present in the instructions. And you're actually with him. Yeah. And Prabhupada, Prabhupada on a number of occasions is always with me. He's always right next to me. And he felt like that. So therefore, there is not, or should not, or doesn't need to be, that such a great necessity. We must spend, particularly all the time, 7 days a week for years, in the personal company of the spiritual master. If one develops the relationship with the Vani, then the bond will develop in real spiritual terms. But still, when the spiritual master is present, one should get his association. And, it's, as a sort of rule of thumb, or at least an idea, it's a good idea for disciples to get the personal association of their spiritual master on a fairly regular basis. If he doesn't come, go to him. The world is so small now with air travel. In a few hours you can be literally anywhere. So, and it's so valuable and so important that, if it's just happening that somehow or other he's not coming, you should go. Take a few days off from whatever you're doing and go and get association. And then when he finally disappears, the relationship with the Vani will be so strong, you'll just feel he's there anyway. So many of Prabhupada's disciples who are really seriously serving him in ISKCON, they feel that Prabhupada's there. Oh, sure. Not just a nice memory, but a real link and a bond. Any other comment? Last comment and question. Yes, Ram Rao Ji. Chaliya.
Maharajji, please clarify my ignorance. I have two things to ask Maharaj. Number one is, after the death, the soul with its subtle body, wherever it goes into the next life or anything. But at the same time, what happened to the Paramatma after the soul will migrate to a different stage? And that is one. And another point I have is when it's a purified soul, when it reaches Goloka, very advanced stage, and they still have the subtle body to recognize what they have what they have gone there with.
You mean their past?
Yes.
Their past.
Because once they go there, they have association of Krishna without the subtle body, without the mind and intelligence or anything, and how they would be able to recognize that.
Okay. Well, first part was about what happens to the super soul, Paramatma.
Yes, super soul.
Paramatma goes also. Paramatma goes with the person when the soul and subtle body goes to Yamaraj and then on to the next body. Paramatma goes. Yeah, Paramatma goes. See, that Paramatma, there is one Paramatma. It is not that I have a Paramatma, you have one also, another one. And your Paramatma may wave to my Paramatma. How's your conditioned soul doing? They are one. They are one. The example which is given to illustrate how they are one but in many, well, an example, is the example of a room full of mirrors. A room full of mirrors. One person walks into a room full of mirrors, and then they look around. Oh, let's say there's 20 mirrors. Now there's 20 of them. And in some mirrors, they make them in such ways. You may look very skinny. And some other mirror, you may look very fat, and so on and so forth. But actually, they're just images of one person. And say there are 20 mirrors. If you take out one, now there's 19. But the taking out of the one does not affect the actual one, the person. The fact that that one reflection is no longer there does not affect the reflected person. You follow? So the one super soul is actually within every atom, in fact. not just within our hearts, but within every atom. So when the soul and subtle body go to, for the average ordinary person in this world, when they go to Yamaraj, the super soul goes too. And then the second point, yes, the subtle body. The thing is that when you engage in devotional service, your mind and intellect, the subtle body becomes purified and gradually becomes replaced by the mind and intelligence and sense of identity of you. It's not exactly like just a switch, but in a very subtle way, gradually, the real nature of the living entity, meaning psychological nature, starts coming through, and the actual material subtle body just dissolves away. So and therefore, well, the process the experience would be that gradually the person, as they become, we're talking about very advanced, gradually they start to understand, first of all, just like a little hint, oh, a cowherd boy. And then as they continue on, then a clearer sense, maybe I'm a cowherd boy. And then as they go on, a completely clear sense, I am a cowherd boy. Assuming that's their actual eternal relationship. And generally speaking, people will only go back to Godhead when they have already come to that point in this world, through the process, that they have at least started to realize quite clearly, or have actually realized very clearly who they are as eternal persons. And as that gradually happens, then the material subtle body, it just dissolves and falls away. But having said that, Prabhupada makes the point that when you go back to Godhead, because now you're completely free of ignorance. We cannot remember our previous life, generally. Most people. What to speak of previous life? We generally can't remember what we were doing, say, 10 years ago on this day. April the 24th? 2003 at 8 p.m. We can't remember. There's basically no chance. What we were doing 1 year ago, even 1 week ago,
Yesterday.
maybe even yesterday. If I ask you, please repeat verbatim everything I've said in the last hour or so. No chance. Even if I'm to repeat everything I said, I can't do it. Because ignorance is there. It's very powerful. It takes away our knowledge. But Prabhupada explains in a letter that when a person becomes completely purified, they become completely free of ignorance. And they come to the point, what we call complete knowledge, full knowledge. Doesn't mean of everything, like God, but complete knowledge of themselves. And Prabhupada says, then you can remember all your previous lifetimes. And this is one reason why Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, in 2 or 3 places, however many, Krishna says, when you go back there, you don't come back here. One reason is because you can remember what you went through here. Now we can't. And even though in this lifetime, probably all of us have suffered sometimes really badly. But we forget, and then we start thinking, oh, it's okay. I could stay in Newcastle. Why not? Get a nice job. Oh, okay. A nice semi-detached house. So that's the power of ignorance. But when the soul is purified, Prabhupada explains, in Goloka Vrindavan, you can remember everything that you've been through. And that's very, it helps convince you, I'm not going back there. And Prabhupada actually said, Prabhupada was asked a number of times that, Krishna says when you go back there, you never come back here. So, but can't you come back? Prabhupada was asked, so far, no one has come back. Anyway, don't be the first. But Prabhupada said that. So far, no one has come back. And this is why Krishna says, when you go there, you don't come back, because so far nobody has come back. In principle, it's not like impossible, but it's so extremely, fantastically unlikely that Krishna just says, no, you don't come back. And you can remember how you were in Newcastle, how you were in Vishakhapatnam, and what you were doing in your previous lifetime and millions of lifetimes. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.